Equilibrium must needs be restored. The time has come for you and yours to join the fray. Warrior of Darkness.
Hello and welcome, adventurers. I'm Mary, and in this video, I'll be talking about how some of the themes from Final Fantasy IV have influenced the story of Final Fantasy XIV so far, and what that means going forward into the next expansion, Endwalker. Just as a warning, this video does contain spoilers for Shadowbringers up to patch 5.55 and Final Fantasy IV, so if you'd like to avoid them, pray return to this video when you're caught up. Since its first installment released back in 1987, Final Fantasy has grown into one of the most prolific and popular RPG franchises worldwide. While series mainstays such as Moogles, Chocobos, and Cid are to be expected, Final Fantasy XIV stands out as a kind of love letter to its predecessors and the fans who have stuck with this series these 30+ years. Let's take a look at 3 examples of the impact Final Fantasy IV has had on the Final Fantasy XIV narrative. At the start of each expansion, we are treated to a trailer starring the Warrior of Light in a role thematic to each story. This latest transition, from Dark Knight in Shadowbringers to Paladin in Endwalker, is an homage to Final Fantasy IV and its main character, Cecil. Cecil begins his story as a Dark Knight and, after a series of events that cause him to question his loyalty, ends up on the top of Mount Ordeals where he encounters a mysterious light. The light calls him "my son" and commands Cecil to take up a sword and face himself as a Dark Knight. By not raising his sword, his transformation into a paladin is complete. While I don't think we'll be meeting the Warrior of Light's father anytime soon, we are visited by a glowing apparition at the very last scene of 5.55, a woman holding an Amyrotine mask. Could the events of Endwalker cause us to rethink our loyalties to Eorzea? Or even Hydaelyn?
Now tell me, young lady, what do you know of the Aseans?
It is the blessing of light that confounds you.
She senses me. A useful talent.
And I, faithful Fandaniel, labor only to advance my lord's ambitions.
The Founding Father was an Asean, and he created the Empire solely for the purpose of sowing the seeds of chaos.
We just can't seem to be rid of Aseans, can we? What started out as a group of mysterious robed figures has evolved into the tragic tale of the Amyroti people. When faced with the end of days, the Amyroti Convocation of 14 sacrificed half the population in order to summon the will of the planet, Zodiark. While this did stave off total destruction, the Convocation was enthralled by Zodiark and sacrificed half the remaining population to bring life back to the planet. The goal was to harvest the eventual new races in order to restore the sacrificed Amyroti. A faction of the Amyroti, led by Venat, opposed this plan and sacrificed themselves to summon Hydaelyn. Hydaelyn and Zodiark fought, until Hydaelyn was able to sunder Zodiark, splitting him and the Amyroti world into 13 reflections and the Source. The remaining members of the Convocation became the first Aseans, and worked to bring about umbral calamities, which strengthened Zodiark via rejoining reflections back to the Source. It may not seem like it at first, but you can see some parallels to the Lunarians of Final Fantasy IV. The Lunarians fled their home planet right before its destruction and came across Earth. The humans they encountered were primitive and still evolving, so the advanced Lunarians created a second moon for themselves to wait until they could coexist alongside humans. They went to sleep near the moon's core, while a Lunarian named Fusoya watched over them. One of the Lunarians, named Zenos, wanted to exterminate the humans, claiming they would always be inferior to Lunarians, and therefore it would be impossible to coexist. Once he has his epic reunion with the Warrior of Light, Xenos will officially be the most reoccurring villain in Final Fantasy XIV. Unless Nail Van Darnus finds the allure of another primal inside a moon too tempting and comes back from the dead. Again. Xenos' current ambitions echo that of Golbez. In Final Fantasy IV, Golbez, the son of a Lunarian and a human, collects the world's crystals under the influence of Zemus. The crystals were used to bring the Giant of Babel down from the moon to destroy human life. When confronted by Cecil and his party, Golbez is freed from Zemus by Tella's meteor. He then travels to the moon with Fusoya and defeats Zemus. However, Zemus' hate leaves his body and becomes the true final boss, Zeramis, which is soundly defeated by the heroes of the story. So how does this relate to Xenos? Well, Xenos is the great-grandson of Solus Zos Galvez, who we now know is actually the Asean Emmet Selk. Golbez's magic comes from his Lunarian father, and I wouldn't be surprised if part of Xenos' strength comes from being related to an unsundered Asean. He did mention to Fandaniel that he's had dreams of Amarant and the final days all his life. Xenos is also gathering Aether for some nefarious, as-of-yet unknown plan to bring about the end of days. I think we can also predict one more Golbez parallel, that he will not be the final encounter of Endwalker. Golbez is set up early on to be the big bad, only to have Zemus be revealed as the man behind the curtain. We will definitely fight Xenos, but I think there may even be an instance in Endwalker that Xenos inadvertently helps us. Not out of love or loyalty, but more because something will get in the way of what he wants. He has done this before, like when he stopped Varus from releasing Black Rose, since it would deprive him of a rematch with the Warrior of Light. So, what do you think? Are there any Final Fantasy IV references you hope to see in Endwalker? Are there other references you'd like to see me cover? Let me know in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing. I also stream on Twitch, link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, adventurers, remember, you matter, and may you ever walk in the light of the crystal.